we saw this over the mid 2000s was, a lot of the actual costs went up as well. So if we have cost inflation, then price increases don't, make an effect to the bottom line as much as you might think.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics on the road today in Minnesota. But what an exciting world we live in, where you have the internet, you can check the gold and silver price from anywhere you go, which I think makes investing fun in these exciting days and times. Fortunately, I am joined by my friend David Terry of Genesis Metals to dig into the gold market and gold exploration, and we'll have some fun questions for him. David, great to see you again, and how's everything going with you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, Chris. Nice to be on your show again and having a chat about gold.
Yeah, and as we talked about a little bit before we started recording this one, gold a bit higher than when you and I met back in, I think it was 2018 in November. Gold probably back $1,200, $1,300 there. You see quite a volatile day here. I love these plummets, and then it just skyrockets back. David, I feel as if in today's world, I don't know, maybe when you at least have the central banks pretending they're going to tighten and stop doing the only thing they ever do, which is print money, then you can scare people out for a couple of years. But it feels almost as if the fundamental reason for owning gold, and that it's more relevant now than ever, is becoming just too obvious for people with common sense to ignore. What are your thoughts on this gold rally we've seen the past year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that, I think there's strong fundamentals there that really, that are supporting this rally, and it seems like it feels real, and I think that silver has sort of joined in fairly recently and moved back up into the mid to high 20s. Also supports that. So this is what we've been sort of expecting to happen at some point and looking forward to for a number of years, and here we are.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, maybe not funny the right word, but a lot has happened this year. You have Corona, you have riots going on here in the U.S. So I mean, I think about how it's almost you had the chaos of 2007 and 2008 compressed into a 1 or 2 month period. And I think some of it's happened so fast that it's almost impossible for it to really sink in. And it's almost as if gold hit new all-time highs and people still aren't even really aware of it yet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, we that are in the industry are obviously aware of it, but whether Main Street's aware of it is a good question. And I because of the whole situation, obviously, I've been talking to a lot of people, but I haven't been out meeting with people as in the past. So I think you're probably right. You don't see it on the news that much, on the general media and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I think that as long as our current trajectory maintains itself over the coming months, that you'll see more and more people recognizing it. But yeah, we'll wait. We'll see how that unfolds.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned what could be coming in the next couple of months, because I'm going to pull our gold chart back up here again. As we sit here today, let's call it 1937 at the moment. So not the all-time highs, but still very close. But what are people supposed to think? You're at a higher level. It's not $1,300 anymore, but when the Fed, it's like no matter what happens, they just keep promising and delivering that they're going to print more. So, I mean, do people say, well, it's at a high, it's time to sell? Or what would you give as a framework, at least for someone to start thinking about that?
Well, I mean, I kind of look at it from the standpoint that in Canada here, where a couple of the projects that I'm involved with, we use Canadian dollars, so gold is really at like we're at $2,500 an ounce or more in Canada. So in terms of looking at that from an investor's point of view. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, to know where we're going to go, but I still think that owning precious metals is a good thing to be exposed to in this environment.
Yeah, and in terms of where we might go,
Yeah,
David, what would you say the chances are? Here's the U.S. debt clock. We're at 26.7 trillion. I thought it was kind of funny that, remember when Trump first came into office, it had just crossed 20 trillion, and the projections weren't, how they were going to cut, but when it would hit 30 trillion, looks like we may even get there before the next election. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's the debt clock. Here's the Fed's balance sheet, which has just gone vertical. It's kind of hard to imagine either of these numbers getting smaller given the way things are going.
yeah, no, I would agree with you there. Those are staggering numbers.
And actually, it's fun if you look over here, the dollar to silver ratio. And now I have to leave my mouse there, but you can look up to the middle where it has the definition, top middle of the screen, year-over-year increase in M2 money supply divided by the production of silver. So I guess basically this year's money increase versus silver production. I looked a couple of months ago. This was at 21.05, and now it's up to 4,085 per ounce. I mean, dollar to gold ratio, 31,000 per ounce. And the numbers, they just keep getting bigger, especially in a year where, as I know you're well familiar with, a lot of the mining supply has been shut down as well.
Yeah, certainly depending on where the projects or the mines are located, there's been interruptions. Absolutely.
Yeah, and any thoughts, because you are also the CEO of Genesis Metals and you're out looking for gold, anything you can talk about? Do you have any idea how much the supply has gone down? Or, no, it's not easy to calculate, but just seems like you have record demand and supply falling is a good recipe.
Yeah, that's certainly true, and good gold deposits are becoming harder and harder to find and more scarce as well. And so that's one of the things that larger mining companies are having to deal with is looking at their pipeline and what's it going to look 5-10 years out, and so that's where we come in the junior sector is going out and making those discoveries, and so it's been this whole sort of increase in the price of gold, increase in the level of financing that's available to us has really supported what we do in our business. So it's been a good time over the last 6 months for people in the junior gold sector and silver.
Yeah, it certainly has, and I appreciate you mentioned that, because especially should we continue to see rising prices in gold and silver, you talked about how a lot of the major companies have certain obligations and there's not as easy to find. Do you think we will see a lot of takeover activity, and especially if the price keeps climbing? I mean, is it going to be some of these companies are hunting for anyone that has a good deposit?
Yeah, I would think more than over the last few years. There has been an increase in M&A activity in the sector, but I would expect that to continue as we go on in this stronger environment where there's a lot more companies that are well funded and able to explore their projects, and I would expect more discoveries to result from that over time. And so I would expect that the M&A part of our sector will increase over the next several years.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and as you were saying that, it popped into my head again that we do also have the election coming up. God only knows how much money the Americans will print here in before and after that, which I think is really relevant because, as you and I have discussed before, while there's been a rally in the mining shares, especially in Silverland, I mean, as of a week ago or so, it was interesting to me, Silvercrest and First Majestic were both trading lower with $26, $27, $28 silver than when silver was $18. And I get the feeling that there's a lot of people that remember 2016, maybe even 2011, where you had the rally, but boy, it was gone in the blink of an eye. Do you think that's what is holding things back from some of the mining stocks so far? Even, again, some of them being up quite a bit, but a lot of cases where it doesn't seem to match what many people would expect. Do you think it's that or perhaps something else?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've had these episodes like 2016 where it seemed like things were getting back on track and companies were able to finance and their share prices were moving up, but as you point out, it didn't last very long, and we were sort of back to the same situation we were in from 2012 to 2015. So since the beginning of the year or late last year, there's been this move, as you say, in a lot of the share prices and the gold price and the silver price, and it feels like a more sustainable situation right now to me anyway, and I think to a lot of people. But nothing, these things don't go straight up, and there's always periods of consolidation and that sort of thing. So, I expect that we'll see that along the way. But I'm certainly hopeful that we're going to have a little bit of a rally here, and that we'll be moving higher in the future.
Yeah, well, I guess we can all thank Ben Bernanke and Jerome Powell for virtually guaranteeing it. That's what's so stunning to me. It's like no matter what happens, I mean, you could have an alien land on the White House and they'll figure that the solution is more quantitative easing or more negative interest rates, which I think is a big difference because back in 2016, now in reality, the Fed never tightened a darn thing, but at least that was their party line and people were buying it. So I think that's a big difference now. And especially, I'd love to get your opinion on this one, where especially from your experience running mining companies, having a lot of different projects that you've seen, can you put in context for people the difference between, $1,300 gold or $16 silver and, how much that increase in the bullion price makes? Because I think people get it that, all right, the bullion price is up, but any way you could put in context that if we do get a couple of quarters, what earnings could start looking like for some of these companies?
Well, certainly, these significant increases in price, while, we saw this over the mid-2000s, was, a lot of the actual costs went up as well. So if we have cost inflation, then price increases don't, make an effect to the bottom line as much as you might think. But I think what we've seen here in the last, this year, certainly in the silver prices and the gold prices, it's been a significant increase in the price, and so that is going to affect the bottom line of a lot of companies because I think after the last sort of downturn, people have got their costs in line, and if they're still in production and operation, then they'll enjoy the benefits of this increase in price. And I mean, as an exploration person, I always tried to focus on projects and deposits that will be able to operate in the lower quartile of costs for the industry, and so then you can weather through the storms of the ups and downs of the commodity price. But for the companies that are in production right now, and they should be seeing some good cash flows over the next little while.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, and maybe that just seeing those numbers after the third quarter will make it more real for people in some degree, because even I think there's people that realize, all right, numbers were going to be lower in the second quarter with COVID, yet I read some of these articles on Seeking Alpha and otherwise, and they're just like, well, second quarter wasn't great. I'm thinking, like, if you're not really putting in context, especially for readers that, aren't thinking about, well, mining company might have been affected a lot more than a technology company. And I think it's getting lost somewhere, and maybe, because we'll probably, especially if things were shut down, some companies even withheld some production. It'll probably look even bigger than it comes out to be for some people when they see some of those third quarter numbers.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And, certainly depending on where operations are, there's been a big, it really depends on where you are, what's shut down and what's not, and what sort of impact that's going to have on your projects and production.
Yeah. And is there anything in particular that, especially, I know there's a lot of, one thing I think is much different than 2011, not 50% of the population, but there are new people coming into gold and silver for the first time. And obviously mining, it takes quite a couple of decades of knowledge and study, as I'm learning, to really understand some of these businesses. But for folks that are new to it, is there anything you could pass along, or when someone sees 10 different mining companies, any tips or how to get started, or what's a good thing to look for to really begin to evaluate and distinguish them?
Well, it's a broad spectrum, because you go right from the large integrated mining companies and in the gold space, the big companies like Barrick and Newmont and so forth, down to the intermediate size production companies, and then the sector that I'm in, which is exploration stage. If you're looking at the exploration stage companies, the projects and the people are probably the most important thing. So you want to look for people that have a track record, know what they're doing, and projects that are in good jurisdictions and have a significant resource or potential, and so there's a lot of there's a lot of people companies out there, but you have to focus on a few things like that are going to help pick which one to go with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In fact, in the 2 years, I guess it's been, when I really started doing a lot more of these interviews, and that was one of the questions I asked a lot. So as I was learning, and what you said really echoes what I've heard over and over again, where you could have a great deposit, but if the guys running it doesn't know what they're doing, you're going to probably have a tough time there. And David, perhaps in wrapping up, because for folks who may be looking for leverage or gold investments, as I mentioned before, you are running Genesis Metals. Can you give a quick overview and how they can find out more information about that?
Sure. Genesis Metals is it's a member of the Discovery Group. It's focused on the Chevrier project, gold project in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt in the province of Quebec. We have a current mineral resource, and we're exploring right now. We've got a drill program underway, and it just started, so it'll be going over the next several months, and it's going to be a minimum of 5,500 meters. And we're testing a number of areas on the property, including the main zone deposit and some outside target areas. There's a map of our property and the surrounding area that we've got up on the screen right now. And you can find out more information on the company by going to our website, which is www.genesismetalscorp.com.
Yes, although, David, I appreciate that you even made it easier than that for people, because you stuck around and recorded a nice profile which laid things out clearly, which will be linked to in a second. Although before we wrap up, you did also mention you're part of the Discovery Group, and that's something that we've had a few of the companies from the Discovery Group on the show. And could you just talk about what it's like? I think it's a nice advantage when you have, I mean, so much of what we do in life doesn't necessarily have to be labor, but someone has insight or decades of experience. And I think that's one of the big advantages, where you have all these other guys that you can contact or access or have them take a look at something. But just anything else you could mention there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Discovery Group is a group of exploration companies with one development company, Bluestone Metals. But yeah, it's populated with a lot of the industry leaders, I think, in the junior exploration business. So it's a great platform for sharing information and getting ideas, and the companies that make up the group are some of the most successful companies in the junior business.
Yeah, and I think that's a handy advantage to have. And David, been great catching up with you again, and we'll look forward to following the success of everything you're doing. And folks, if you're watching at home and you'd like to hear more about Genesis Metals and what David's up to there, well, it is coming your way now.